I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right. Hello, guys. Welcome, everyone. You have to bear with me tonight. I am using a new computer. I got a gaming laptop and I'm still like figuring my way out around it. So if you see my eyes just kind of darting around, that's why I'm still figuring things out. But I think I got it. Shout out to everyone watching on Rockfin, YouTube, and Twitter as well. All right. I want to give shout outs to people in the chat. What's going on? Saying at night. Love the show. Good vibes. Thank you so much. Welcome. Greetings, Hannah G. Biden is a Republican. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Oh, gosh. What's going on? Jesus says Biden is a Grover Norquist Republican, to be exact. Oh, man. They're coming in today, man. They're coming in. What's going on? Eric Thomas, who's a Sabby member, says happy Lefty Monday to all. Greetings, Holly Horn. She says, hi, Jesus. What's going on? Greg Bruce, who's also a Sabby member, says, hey, all. What's going on, Greg? Shout out to Lawrence. It's always great to see you. At Holly Horn Band, WTF. Yeah, no, Holly, we can see you, definitely. We can definitely see you. Yeah, I don't think you're banned on this channel. Wouldn't have been me. What's going on, Notori? She says, Sabby, Sabby, Sabby. Greetings, Gamer for Life. Hello. Always great to see you as well. Oh boy, a lot of comments. What's going on? Laura Hanson says, doobie doobie doo, on we go. Indeed. Indeed. Shout out to Leroy, says comrades. He's a Sabby member. Hello, Leroy. What's going on? Greetings, Valerie. Are you going to talk Rittenhouse case ever? I have done a full stream on Kyle Rittenhouse on FHL. I did that 2 weeks ago. Definitely go check that out. In fact, a lot of trolls came in that chat. A lot of them. What's going on? Ryan and 76 says Sabby Sabby do. What's going on? Shout out. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Sabby Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, Sabby Sab's podcast is a part of the what used to be the Fred Hampton Leftist Network. We are changing our name. So you should hear the new name hopefully tomorrow. So that's a little secret. So you can find me there on Monday, Tuesday, or no, you can find me there on Thursdays for the Roundtable and Fridays for the Sabby Show. And you can find me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So yes, we do have changes coming up. If you did not see that stream over at FHL where we talked about why we're changing the name, definitely go check that out. The name of that stream is called Changing the Name. It's as simple as that. What's going on, Aspen Fallen? Always great to see you. James Root says, smash that like button. Yes, don't forget to do that, guys. I forget to tell you that sometimes. But let's go ahead and get started because tonight we are going to talk about a couple of different things. So it's a different mix tonight. I don't usually do sports news on here, but this isn't really sports related. It involves athletes, but the topic is a little bit different. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. All right, so we are going to talk about Michael Jordan blamed. Oof. What are they accusing Michael Jordan of doing or not doing? I was actually kind of surprised to see this story pop up, but I can't wait to get into that. I have mixed opinions about it. We're going to talk about Biden funds cops. Again, I should have put again after that because there's recent news where Biden is giving police more funding. Why are we not surprised? And last but not least, we're going to talk about Fox News contributors resign. Now, this is probably the first time I've ever talked about Tucker Carlson on this show. And No, I believe it is the only time I've ever talked about him on the show. I can go back and check, but I believe it's the only time. But something happened there, and two Fox News contributors have resigned, and I'll explain that as we get into that story. I think it's important for you to hear and important for you to know about as well. So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. So let's get into the story about Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan is someone that you don't hear from a lot. He is, a retired professional athlete, was very, very popular when I was growing up over the world. Like, Michael Jordan was the most popular athlete in the world when I was growing up, not just in the United States. And so there have been some criticisms about him along the way. And I feel like Michael Jordan has taken some steps to try to resolve those criticisms. But recently, one of my own players here, who plays for the Boston Celtics, has had some things to say about Michael Jordan. This came out over the weekend. I'm pretty sure he's not going to like hearing this. I have mixed opinions about it. I'm going to give you my take on it. He also has some things to say about LeBron James as well, but I really want to focus on the Michael Jordan part, because this is an issue that has come up about Michael Jordan multiple times in the past. And I do feel like Michael Jordan has made some steps to fix that or to change that. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me get this video pumped up. So give me just a second. All right. So give me a second. I want to make sure I mute this. Okay. While this ad plays, I'll tell you. So Enes Kanter, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He is a professional basketball player for the Boston Celtics. He was on CNN recently, and here's what he had to say. Now, you have to know that this has to do with Nike. And most of you know this, that Nike is notorious for having issues with child labor. They've had issues with trying to co-opt a Black Lives Matter movement. So that's how this conversation begins. And then Michael Jordan's name is brought up. So check this out. I'm going to share my screen. All right, let's see.
You have slammed Nike for profiting off what you call concentration camps. But earlier this year, Nike said it did not source products from the region where the Uyghur camps are located, and that it has confirmed that its contract suppliers do not use textiles or yarn from that region. For its part, China denies any allegations of human rights abuses at Uyghur camps and says they are centers aimed at stopping religious extremism and terrorism. So why do you continue to criticize Nike when they say they are committed to ethical and responsible manufacturing?
I mean, do we believe that? I do not believe that. I believe that, let me just tell you this. Nike is the biggest sponsor of the NBA, right? And in America, Nike stands with Black Lives Matter. Nike stands with Latino community. Nike stands with no Asian hate and LGBTQ community. But when it comes to China, Nike remains silent. And I feel like what they're doing over there is a modern day slavery, and people need to understand this. Nike is the biggest hypocrite company to me in the world. And people need to understand this. Every time you put that shoes on, you put that t-shirt on your back, there is so much blood and sweat and oppression on those items. So please think twice before you buy any of this stuff.
I just want to cut in here for just a second, because he's also talking about himself. For those who don't know, the Boston Celtics uniforms are also made by Nike. There's actually the Nike check mark on it. You can go check this out yourself, like Google it online and you can see the pictures. So he's telling people not to put on these t-shirts, but he puts it on every time he plays a game. So he's doing it too. So I get what he's saying, but I just want to let you know this is kind of hypocritical here, because he's doing that as well. He's going to go on to talk about LeBron and Michael Jordan.
Okay, let me quickly ask you. You have called out LeBron James for putting money over morals. Here's how he responded after his Lakers played your Celtics Friday night.
I think if you know me, I don't really give too many people my energy, and he's definitely not someone I will give my energy to, trying to use my name to create, an opportunity for himself. He's always, kind of had a word or two to say, in my direction. And as a man, if you got an issue with somebody, you really come up to him. He had his opportunity tonight. I seen him in the hallway, he walked right by me,
So then I got to ask you, and why haven't you gone up to LeBron, spoken to him face to face about your concerns?
First of all, even my assistant coach knows that story. When, first of all, he was behind me in the tunnel, and I stopped to take a picture with one of the kids, and I wasn't the one right past him. He was the one literally walked right by me and did not say anything. But the other thing is, I feel like we need to call out these hypocrite players who care about money over morals and principles. And I think one thing, someone had to do it. Someone had to do it, because I have so many. I just don't want to give you guys the whole thing, but like I had so many conversations with LeBron's ex-teammate, and even they are the one told me that LeBron, all he's doing is just his own PR. And everything he's doing, trying to stand up for things, is not that he really feels about it, but he cares about his PR more than anything. But I feel like, LeBron James is one of them, but not many people talking about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan hasn't done nothing for the Black community in America besides just, giving them money. I feel like we need to call out these athletes. At least LeBron James is going out there and being the voice of all those people who are oppressed in America. But Michael Jordan has not done anything for the Black community because he cares too much about his shoe sales all over the world and America. So I feel like we need to call out these athletes and not be scared of who they are.
I know. I imagine a lot of people in the Black community would disagree with that, and we'll have to put those allegations.
Yeah. Where do I begin? Oh boy. All right, let's start with the moral part first. So he said that a lot of these athletes are not upholding the moral values, and they're focused on like the money part. They're focused on the game, they're focused on endorsements. I get it. But this is the problem with putting athletes on pedestals. I personally don't think that because someone plays basketball, football, whatever professionally, I personally do not feel that that means that they have to be this moral character. That is a job. For them, it's a job. I mean, I'm not held up to this kind of standard to be this moral whatever character at my job. So I think a lot of times people put athletes on pedestals, and a lot of times people look at them as role models, even when they don't want to be, right? For them, they just want to play basketball. They want to play well. They want to win. It's their job. So I don't know about the whole, they need to uphold these moral standards. I don't know about that. I just don't feel like that's a part of their job. Now, some people may disagree, but I don't feel like that's a part of their job. Let's go into the comment about Michael Jordan. So Inez says that Michael Jordan has done nothing for the Black community. So there's a couple things I want to say about this. The first one is it appropriate for someone like Inez, who is not Black, to say what another Black person has or has not done for the Black community? Is that appropriate? That's the first question that I have, because I'm wondering, is he in these Black communities? Has he been to those Black communities? How does he know that Michael Jordan hasn't done anything for the Black community? So that's the first, question that I have. That's how I feel about that. The second thing that I want to say is when you think about some of the criticisms that Michael Jordan has had, at least when I was growing up, like in the 90s, one of the things that other athletes have complained about is that when it came to Black issues and when it came to civil unrest in this country, like Rodney King, they felt like Michael Jordan didn't use his platform to speak on those issues. Now, years later, Michael Jordan has come forward and said that that is something that he does wish, if he could go back and change, that he would have been more vocal. Sometimes he was vocal. There was one time I remember there was an event, it had to deal with, like, I think when he got his first shoe deal. And some people weren't happy about the fact that he was talking to people that were Republican. Michael Jordan's response was, Republicans buy sneakers too. Some people didn't like that. Some people in the Black community didn't like that too well. But that was him just being him, right? So I do understand where that criticism comes from, where sometimes he just did not speak up. He wasn't as vocal. Like, he wasn't like LeBron. Like, LeBron is vocal about these things, about injustice in this country. And people felt like Michael Jordan just kind of kept quiet because he didn't want it to affect his, I guess, his image or his endorsements, whatever, etc. But then that brings me to another question. Is it an athlete's responsibility to come and speak out on these issues? Is that something that they're responsible for? What if they just want to play ball? What if they just want to play basketball and that's it? Just do their job. Are they held to that standard? I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat, and then there's something else I want to mention as well. Where Pilgrim says, I think Jordan denies saying that things about Republicans buying shoes, but it is what it is, LOL. Yeah, it was actually in an article. And it was on that Michael Jordan documentary. He may have denied that, but yeah, that was in an article. Notary says the mainstream press gives him coverage because he's a ward of the State Department. Oh boy. Oh boy. Sean said it's interesting. So the same people that get offended about shut up and dribble, or some of the same people that are crying about Michael Jordan not saying anything, are some of the same people crying about Michael Jordan not saying anything. Yeah. So exactly. So that's my question. Like, where do you draw the line? Is it an athlete's responsibility to speak out about social issues in this country? Is it their responsibility to speak up about injustice like LeBron does? Because me personally, like, would I do it? Yes. But if you ever notice, like with Michael Jordan, for the most part, he was in the spotlight because he was like the best basketball player at that time. Like, he was like the best. But it seemed like when it came to like his personal life, he tended to try to keep that private as much as possible. Now, the press did invade his personal life quite often, that he didn't really want, times when he didn't really want them to. I remember when his father passed away, that was like a big deal. And like the press didn't leave him alone during that time either. So I felt like he was one of those people that just kind of didn't really want to get involved in like, he didn't want to come out to the media to get involved with things that were not sports related to his job. That's what it seemed like to me. But the other point that I want to bring up, and this is very important, I want to debunk what Inez just told you about Michael Jordan not doing anything for the Black community. So here we go. Let me share my screen. All right. I'm still getting used to this new computer, you guys. All right. So here we go. Now, I want you to pay close attention to the date here. This is from 2016. Michael Jordan comments on donations to civil rights and community police groups. Now, I don't agree with the donations to the police, but listen to this. Charlotte's Hornets owner and Hall of Famer Michael Jordan has announced 1 million donations to organizations aimed at improving relations between police officers and citizens. If you go down here, it goes on to say he will donate 1 million to the Institute for Community Police Relations and 1 million to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. So the NAACP Legal Defense Fund has been in place for decades to help fight for racial justice and protect civil rights. Again, I'm not cool with the donation to the police, but that is one example where Michael Jordan has donated to the Black community. And here's another example that I think a lot of people do not know about. And I went to this museum. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So Michael Jordan also donated to, check this out, $5 million to the African American Museum. This was also in 2016. Now, this is the museum is in DC. I went there with my husband, and I got to tell you, if you have not been, you should definitely go. It is not just for Black people. It is probably one of the best museums I've been to. It took like 4 hours just to get through the one exhibit that I was going through, just that one exhibit. But $5 million, $5 million, that was from Michael Jordan. Let me come out. So those are just a few. But the impression that I've received from Michael Jordan is that he doesn't seem like the type of person to brag about doing charity, to brag about giving donations to people. He just doesn't come across as that type of person. When I was in college, and I don't know if I ever told you guys this, there used to be a Michael Jordan's, it was like this golf charity event. And I have my criticisms about charities because I told you they're top-down organizations. But a lot of people don't know that. They feel like they're doing a good thing because we're told that charities are good things. But Michael Jordan used to have this charity golf classic. And one year he had it at my college. And it was like a big deal because people were like, Michael Jordan's coming here, you know? And I just think about the fact that to me, it just seems like he's not the type of person to brag about doing these things. And the reality is, if you don't put it out there for people to know that you're doing it, a lot of times people aren't going to know. So I think that Inez's comments were a bit exaggerated. I don't know if Michael Jordan had been doing these donations for the Black community back in the 90s. When I was growing up, I do not know. But obviously later on, he was doing these things, and it's now 2021. And Inez is still saying he never did anything for the Black community. So I just felt like it's an exaggeration. He didn't know for sure. And honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't really feel like it was his place to say what Michael Jordan did for Black people because Inez is not Black. I mean, just keeping it real. Like, how are you gonna say what Black people got from Michael Jordan? You're not in those communities. You don't know those people. So to me, it just came across as like, I think he crossed that line. I think he crossed that line there. And his statement wasn't even correct. And he didn't say, well, Michael Jordan hasn't done things for the Black community in a long time, or he didn't do it in the beginning. He said never. He said never. And I just gave you 3 examples. Aaron for the People says, Jordan donated $10 million to North Carolina clinics to help distribute vaccines. I didn't know that. That's a good one. That's a big one. Wow. For those who don't know, Michael Jordan is from North Carolina. I went to high school in North Carolina, and he is heavily involved in the community. I will say that he's one of those people that really didn't forget where he came from. And some people forget that, right? Some people become professional athletes. They become famous actors or actresses, and they move to LA and they leave that life behind. Michael Jordan still lives in North Carolina, you guys. Just saying. Just saying. Yipper99 says Obama should get some pointers. Aw, man. Oh, man. Sean said, Inez regurgitating talking points, plain and simple. Yeah, I was just like, did he like research to see if Michael Jordan did these things? No, he didn't, because a quick Google search will show you. It's just, I just don't understand what was the point of that. The comments that he made about LeBron too was really interesting to me, because I'm like, LeBron has done, a lot. Whether these comments about him doing it for publicity or whatever, I don't know. But he has done a lot. He opened a school. Back in his community. How many people were doing that? Can you imagine if every celebrity opened a school back in their community to help underprivileged youth and underserved youth? Can you imagine what that could do for kids in this country? I don't know what Inez is doing. Does anyone know? Anybody? Is Inez like doing these things as well? I know he's speaking out against Nike and the way that Nike, and I'm not a fan of Nike, the way that Nike can exploit child labor. I understand he's speaking out against that, but at the same time, you have a job in an industry that heavily supports Nike. Let's just keep it real. When I was in college, because I went to, SEC, like college, I went to a sports school. And when I was in college, a lot of the college uniforms are from Nike. So I believe it's Oregon. Yes, the Ducks. It's the Ducks team, the Oregon Ducks. Didn't Nike pay for their whole athletic training conditioning center? It's like over $1 million center. I believe it was Oregon, Nike. So you're in an industry, Inez, that is heavily funded and supported by Nike. So maybe this would not be the industry for you. You guys don't understand how much it pained me to see when I saw this story. The first thing I thought was, please don't let it be a Celtics player. Please don't it had to be a Celtics player. And it was frustrating for me because those of us that live in Boston, we know that Boston sports does not have the best reputation when it comes to race relations in the city. They just don't. Just keeping it real. And so I thought, of course, it had to be someone from the Celtics. Damn. Let's go to some of the comments in the chat. Arturo said Nike's founder Phil Knight went to Oregon and grew up in Portland. Okay, that explains why. That makes sense. Yeah, so it was Oregon. I thought it was the Ducks. Yeah. Lex said, what difference do you see between athletes and performing artists? The training, expense, etc. is more than comparable. Good point. Laura said that MJ has benefited off the backs of individuals and factories. True, just like the other elite. A lot of us are. I hate to say it, you guys, but if you have a cell phone, that's child labor. It's more than you realize. It's not just Nike. It happens more often. Things that we may own that we just didn't realize how it was actually made or where it comes from. Aaron said Inez needs to go. Oh man. Yes, wear a pilgrim. Damn, Celtics. Why? Why did it have to be here? Oh man. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think Michael Jordan's just trying to chill in retirement. I feel like every now and then his name keeps coming back up every couple years. And Michael Jordan's probably sitting at home like, damn, can I just retire and live my life? Why do they keep bringing me up? I don't know. Gary said, go Chicago Bulls. I go where Alex Caruso goes, and DeMar DeRozan is a bonus. Oh, interesting. Choosy said Nike does in fact have a history of Jesuit order in its roots. I did not know that. That is nice to know. Let me know how the stream's going, you guys. Like I said, I'm using a new computer and I'm still a little nervous over here. But yeah, definitely. Laura said, yes, but we are paying, not receiving. This is important. Oh, come on, Mark. Why? Why are we going to go there? Sab is because Boston sucks. Why are you going to do this, Mark? Are you from New York? Are you from New York, Mark? Be honest. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. And Ryan, you have a point. We couldn't even produce masks in the US during a global pandemic. So little is made here. So little is actually made in the US. Very interesting. I don't know if I told you guys this before, but when I was looking for a merch like store, it took me a long time because it was hard to find one that could guarantee that the items were made right here in the United States. Not kidding. I don't think it's that difficult to make t-shirts. Just saying. Just saying. I remember when they beamed A-Rod on purpose. Oh my God. Okay, I'm not going to get into the Red Sox. I'm not even going to do it, Mark. I'm not going there. Those are fighting words, Mark. That's a soft spot for me, okay? Because we were close. We were this close making it to the World Series. We were close this year, and we did not. So I'm going to jump off the Red Sox. I am. But yeah, so my opinion about this is I think Inez was kind of, out of place to make that comment. I'm not sure how much he knows about the Black community. I don't think he's really living in the Black community. In fact, I know where a lot of the Celtics players live here in Massachusetts, and it's actually not Boston. So I just don't think that was a good idea. I think he crossed the line there. And also, I just showed you what he said wasn't true. So, but see, guys, they let that go on CNN. Now, the woman that he was speaking to, she did come back in and she said, I don't think Black community is going to be okay hearing that. She tried there, but this is why you have independent media, guys, to come in and debunk these things, to come in and tell you that, like, wait a minute, hold up. Because if that was me talking to Inez, I would have pointed those things out to him that I just showed you. Why didn't she do that? Why, guys? Why? I don't know what to say. I am going into our second story. Joe Biden is at it again, ladies and gentlemen. He is funding the police more. And you got to hear this because this was hilarious to me. So over the weekend, I found out that Joe Biden has decided to start the Cops Counseling Act. Oh, let me share my screen for this one, ladies and gentlemen, because this one really just made me laugh because I'm just like, really? We're giving the police more money? The Cops Counseling Act, signed by President Biden on Thursday, aims to help law enforcement officers recover from the invisible wounds of the job. Get out of here. All right, let's hear what he has to say. I swear to you, this is too funny. I can't, man. Mute my mic.
Every day, our nation's police officers answer the call and confront scenes that can take a toll on them as well and leave them traumatized. It's not fundamentally different than folks in the battlefield. Awful lot of people come home without any physical wounds, but come home with post-traumatic stress and responding to terrible incidences. Well, the same happens for our law enforcement officers. Arriving at homicide scenes, handling child abuse cases, as they confront these situations, we need to help them recover from the invisible wounds that their work can inflict. These wounds are no different from wounds that I said our military encounters on the battlefield. According to one study, law enforcement officers are 54% more likely to die by suicide than the average American because they're under such enormous pressure and they see things none of us ever see. The vast majority of law enforcement officers tell us that peer support programs are the most helpful mental health resource there is. And that makes sense. If you hold just a second, it makes you, when you think about it, law enforcement as well as the military, all taught to stand your own. Don't ask for anything. You can do it. Just take care of it yourself. And it's an enormous burden we put on people.
I have a couple of things to say. I'm going to play this again and I'm going to chime in certain parts. Can you guys hear it okay? Is the volume okay? Again, I'm using a new computer, so I'm just like, let me know if the sound is not as loud as you would like it to be. I think it's just my speakers. Oh, it is my speakers. What do you know? I had the wrong thing on. All right. Let's do this one more time. I'm going to chime in and give you my thoughts on this because this is just this is hilarious to me. Here we go.
Every day, our nation's police officers answer the call and confront scenes that can take a toll on them as well and leave them traumatized. You know, it's not fundamentally different than folks in the battlefield. Awful lot of people come home without any physical wounds, but come home with post-traumatic stress and responding to terrible incidences. Well, the same happens for our law enforcement officers. Arriving at homicide scenes, handling child abuse cases, as they confront these situations, they need.
I'm sorry, but my dad was in the military and he's been to combat. And Joe Biden is comparing a police officer going to deal with a social worker issue with kids and things like that to military personnel that have gone to combat. Do you know what some of those soldiers were like when they came back from Iraq? Do you know some of the things that they saw there? Do you know that I talked to people who had to see their best friend's head being blown off right in front of them and they had to still continue fighting, not knowing where they were going to sleep that night, not knowing if they were going to eat, not knowing if bombs were going to go off next to them while they were asleep? Is he seriously comparing that to law enforcement's having to go out and talk with kids? Give me a break. So they want to increase funding so that there are special counseling services for police officers, but they can't get the VA to fix the counseling services for the soldiers that have been battered over in Iraq, some who are still traumatized from Vietnam. Are you kidding me? The VA moves incredibly slow. And you have soldiers who come back from combat still waiting on their services that they were promised when they joined. Where's the funding for that? Why can't they ramp up counseling services for those soldiers that come back with PTSD? Where's that money? Why can't they ramp up the funding, the VA funding for soldiers who come back and are now 100% disabled? Because I can tell you, I know people that were in the military. It took them years to get their disability to 100%. Where's the funding for that? I'll let him go on.
We need to help them recover from the invisible wounds that their work can inflict. These wounds are no different from wounds that I said our military encounters on the battlefield. According to one study, law enforcement officers are 54% more likely to die by suicide than the average American because they're under such enormous pressure and they see things none of us ever see.
I'm sorry. He says that law enforcement is up under enormous pressure and they see things that none of us have seen. Okay. Give me just a second here, but I'm pretty certain the families whose kids were unarmed and were killed by cops are under a lot more pressure and stress than the police officers who shot them when they were unarmed. Where's the increase for counseling services for that? You see what I mean? Where is it? Are you kidding me here? Are you seriously kidding me? They're under immense stress and pressure. Most of the time, they're not. Guys, I gave you the statistic a while back. Cops only solve 0.02% of crimes. What the fuck are they stressed out about? Oh, well, they have to go and they have to try to get this perpetrator. And I just told you, they only solve 0.02% of crimes. What's the stress? Are you kidding me? Get out of here, man. Get out of here. A lot of times these police officers, they create their own freaking stress. They go into Black communities, even when there is nothing going on, and they try to find trouble. They try to create trouble. If they can't find drugs on someone, they'll plant it on them. They create their own stress and trauma. The police officer who killed Eric Garner, who was just selling freaking cigarettes, he created his own stress and trauma. So he should receive these extra counseling services. That funding should go towards him. Hell no. If he would have left Eric Garner alone and mind his own business, he wouldn't have had that stress. So no, the people who are stressed and under immense pressure are the people living in the communities that the police officers continue to go into and harass. Those are the people who should receive extra funding for counseling services. But then we're talking about Black and brown communities in this country. And President Joe Biden doesn't want to give funding to Black and brown communities. He wants to give funding to the police. He continues to increase the police state in this country, and nothing gets better. He's giving us more police after seeing a summer of protests across the world. People demanding that you defund the police. People demanding that you abolish the police. People demanding that you make some types of changes in the criminal justice system and in the police departments. His response is, let's give the police more money. It is not the police who we should be helping right now. It is not the police who should be receiving that funding right now. Give that funding to the people in Black and brown communities that the police have constantly taunted and harassed for years and decades. Give that money to them. Give that money to Black schools that are constantly underfunded in this country. Give that money to them. I don't care about the police officers in this country. I do not care. And people can take that any way that they want. I do not feel sorry for them. They chose to go into that job, and a lot of them abuse it. And they have a union that protects them every freaking time. Those kids in those neighborhoods, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, the list goes on and on. Who is protecting them? No one. They have to try to protect themselves. And even when they are unarmed, they are still shot. They are still killed. So how dare you give more money to the same oppressor who continues to cause the violence that we have in this country? You are funding the oppressor. That is what Joe Biden is doing, instead of funding the people who are oppressed. Get the fuck out of here. I'll let him go on.
The vast majority of law enforcement officers tell us that peer support programs are the most helpful mental health resource there is. And that makes sense. If you hold just a second, it makes you, when you think about it, you know, law enforcement as well as the military, all taught to be stand your own. You know, don't ask for anything. You can do it. Just take care of yourself. And it's an enormous.
No. You know who's been told to stay on their own and don't ask for anything and you can do it? Black kids, the same ones that the police officers kill. Are you kidding me? Police officers have a whole community that is going to protect them and going to work with them. Those kids in those communities have a lot of times have no one. They don't have the teachers. The teachers don't give a shit. They don't have the police. The police obviously don't care. The police are trying to kill them. Sometimes the parents are not around because they're working 2 jobs. So no, Joe Biden, he just does not get it. He doesn't get it. And it is appalling to me that anybody who is a Democrat and is applauding this, shame on you. Shame on you. Because that just goes to show you what I've said time and time again, that they don't really care about Black people. They just care about Black votes. Let me get him off of my screen. I can't. I just can't. I'm sorry. Like it's utter like disgust to me. It's utter disgust. And I want to show you the dollar amount here because this is what they're doing. This is the Justice Department happening right here in our country, underneath our nose. Let me show you what is going on. Justice Department grant awards $139 million to hire 1,000 new officers. Now, this was November 18th. This was just a couple of days ago, you guys. I'm sorry, but is anyone going to ask the question that they always ask us when we say we want to give everybody health care in this country? Where is this money going to come from? How are you going to pay for it? What are you going to do? Where'd that 139 million come from? How did they magically come up with that money all of a sudden, you guys? Somebody tell me. 139 million? Do you know what they could have done with that money? They could have helped homelessness in this country. They could have helped some of these public schools in this country that are failing instead of constantly closing those schools and telling those kids good luck getting into a charter school. They could have done so many things with that money. They're taking that money to hire more officers. This is where we are in this country, you guys. This is where we are right now. It is absolutely appalling. $139 million. I guess a genie just came up with that money. Nobody's questioning them and asking them where they got the funds from. Of course not. Because it's for the police state. Anytime it's for the police state, the military, nobody questions it. It's okay. It's all good. Not something that we need right now. They are continuing to expand the police state. And that is not what we need in this country right now. People are not too fond of cops right now. I'm just going to be real. Let's just keep it real. Casey said the police budget is already overinflated. 100%. 100%. Why? Why is this happening? Eric Thomas comes in with boom. How are they going to pay for that? Somebody? Anybody? Somebody? Let me know. How are they going to pay for it? See, they don't have to answer that question. It's only when they want to give the money to the people. Then they have to answer that question. This goes back to what I've said before, that Democrats and Republicans, that neither one of them are really here to support us. It's two sides of the same coin. They're one corporate party. And speaking of that, I want to show you something in reference to that, because Andrew Yang recently was on Fox News and he talked about the two-party system. Now, I have mixed opinions about Andrew Yang, and I'm sure some of you may have as well, but he is right about the two-party system and what he has to say here about it. And I want everyone to pay close attention to this, because when I tell you that it is just one party, it really is just one party. So check this out. I'm going to share my screen. And guys, let me know if I look orange to you. I feel like my face looks orange. I don't know. I think I'm just have new computer nerves. All right. So listen to this. Let me mute my mic.
My next guest has his doubts. Andrew Yang was a fascinating presidential candidate in 2020, among the most fascinating I ever had a chance to talk to, because he spoke outside the dots. He united a lot of Republicans and Democrats with ideas that didn't stick with labels. But the problem in this environment is we tend to stick with labels. Andrew Yang joins us right now, the former presidential candidate in 2020, got an enormous amount of buzz, ran for New York mayor. Didn't win, but he quit the race when it was looking like he wouldn't, rather than drag things out. I'm delighted to have him right now. Andrew, good to have you.
Neil, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
What do you make of, you know, we've always had bickering within parties. That's not new. I don't want to overstate it, but it seems like they're poles apart within each party. And I'm just wondering whether the Democratic Party, Did you quit on it, or did it quit on you?
Well, there are a couple of things going on that Americans sense around us, Neil. First, polarization between the parties is at record highs, and it's driving political stress and anxiety, making Americans feel like our fellow countrymen aren't even like on the same page or in the same nation. And then within each party, you have a couple of factions that, in my view, ought to comprise separate parties instead of trying to have them under the same tent. Where if you had a genuine multi-party system in America, in my view, there'd be 5 parties. There'd be progressive Democrats, moderate Democrats, a group of centrists, moderate Republicans, and then conservative Republicans. And I'm going to suggest that system would actually work better because you'd have much
More
more
like
in
a
the way of
parliamentary
compromise.
system where parties then have to form alliances to get power. Of course, I'm going too far there, but is the problem that the two-party system as we know it is just getting a little long in the teeth?
It really is. And if you go way back, Neil, to our founding fathers, they never would have wanted a two-party system. John Adams said 2 parties would be a great evil.
Yeah.
George Washington was anti-partisan in his farewell address for good reason. The two-party system is an invention that now has run its course, but we haven't been able to move on from it, even though we can see that it is not working and has not been working for quite some time.
But, you know, and I was thinking when you were coming together, there are inflection points where it's deemed the two-party system fails and a new party emerges. At the time of Abraham Lincoln, with what became known as the Republican Party. But it's rare. Why is it so rare?
It's rare because the duopoly suppresses all competition. If you're an independent, right now, independents outnumber Republicans or Democrats by the numbers in this country. Let's say you're a libertarian. If you try and contest a particular race, you find yourself shut out. There are these primaries that control the process where it disenfranchises literally millions of Americans. 10% of Americans are right now deciding 83% of races, which means the other 90% of us are on the outside looking in.
You had the trouble, too, not being a well-financed candidate. So you took on sort of like you were like a brush fire. People were really intrigued by you. But the system has in its place, the moneyed candidate tends, not all the time, but I'd say like 99% of the time, to have the edge in an Iowa and then a New Hampshire. And before you know it, it's a fait accompli. Now, it was a little different for Joe Biden, where he got his act together, I think, in South Carolina. But is it the structure of the primary system that does it, or is it just the way it's evolved?
The primary system does advantage certain candidates. And in the Democratic Party, you can tell that there is a bit of a thumb on the scale being applied from folks in D.C. very often. The Republican Party is actually a little bit more open, where whoever wins the most votes ends up in Washington. But you saw it with the way that the DNC sandbagged Bernie in both of the last cycles. They weren't like, oh, let the voters decide. It was more like, let's try and have the right candidate win.
But Bernie might be getting the advantage, right? I mean, the rap you hear against Joe Biden is he campaigned as a moderate.
Yeah. So again, I have my criticisms about Andrew Yang, but I think he has a point about the fact of the two-party system. It's not set up for people who are independents to really win. It really isn't. And that doesn't mean that you can't win. I still highly encourage people to vote third party. I think you need more people like me saying that, just to be honest with you. It can't just be me. I think that you're going to need that to come out in mainstream media, which I don't think will ever happen. So we need more people in independent media to do that. But the problem is that you do have people also on the left in independent media that are constantly trying to keep you in the Democratic Party. And so my question is, if Joe Biden, just like Trump, are both continuing to fund the police state, what the hell is the difference between the two? There really isn't. Both parties fund the police state. Both parties heavily fund the military and continue to inflate the Pentagon budget. And I told you guys this before. Are we at war? Am I missing something? I don't know. So no, both parties support corporate interest. So at the end of the day, why do people continue to vote for either one of them? And anyone who's going into either one of their parties, they're still going to be a part of that party. Bernie Sanders is an independent, but you see most of the time Bernie Sanders goes along with the Democrats, even when we don't think that he should, even when we think that he should take a stand and stand up against the Democrats. Bernie Sanders has disappointed a lot of us this year, I think. Because you have to ask yourself, Bernie Sanders is an independent, but why, after Biden and Trump were the two top contenders, why didn't Bernie Sanders come out and throw the DNC under the bus? At that point, he had nothing to lose. Bernie Sanders is at retirement age. He can retire anytime. So I had to start asking myself these questions like, is Bernie Sanders just around just to convince people like me that we can change the Democratic Party and that there's going to be progress and change? Is that why Bernie is still sticking around, staying in there and hanging in? So the duopoly is a problem. It's not working. Joe Biden is no better than Trump. I told people he wouldn't be. People told me I was crazy. I remember getting into arguments with people on Facebook about this same situation that has now come to fruition. So now people see it and they're like, oh, damn, you were right. I didn't think about that. I talked about politics so much on Facebook to the point where people were like, yeah, you should probably put this on YouTube. Because people just got tired of seeing it. I'm just being honest. People didn't feel like reading my political rants all the time. But it's just one of those things. We have to start asking ourselves, why are these people still trying to keep us in the Democratic Party? What's in it for them? Maybe some of them are just paid opposition to make us think that the Democratic Party can change. I don't think that it can. I think Andrew Yang is right when he says we need at least 5 parties. I think Andrew Yang is right when he says the Democratic Party should be split. I 100% agree with that. I don't think it needs to be the same. I don't agree with him on other things, but I think he's right about that. But Andrew Yang also could be just sheep herding us too. I don't know. Shout out to Mora Yukuri, who just became a Sabby's member. Whoop, whoop. All right. I still feel like I look orange. I'll have to check that out later. I think it's a computer setting thing for real. I told you I'm not good with this new stuff, but I'll figure it out. Ryan Ann said, I honestly thought Biden might pass one of the campaign promises. I hated him from the start, but I didn't think it was possible to be as bad. Oh, Ryan, 76. Telling you, man, he had a lot of good things to say, didn't he? He said a lot of good things. Gamer for Life just said Bernie is nothing but a DNC sheep herder. He's another one, still trying to keep us in the Democratic Party. Stewart said, if you split 2 parties into 5, you end up with 5 capitalist parties. Stewart. Desert Manta said, you look a little blue, Sabby. I look orange on my screen. I don't know. Do I look blue on anyone else's screen? I don't know, man. I'm still getting used to this gamer laptop. Like my keyboard keeps lighting up and it's kind of a distraction. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. Sorry. I'm not used to that. But yeah, it just is what it is. There's really no difference between the two. They divide us with the social issues. Like they'll divide us with abortion. They'll divide us with gay rights, with race. Like they'll divide us with those issues. But if you take those issues away, then we really see they're the same. Bomb Hills said, I look great. Okay. Thanks, Bomb Hills. All right, cool. I'm a Smurf, Sabby Smurf. Are you talking about my shirt? I think you're just talking about my shirt. I think you're just picking with me, Sean. I think you're picking with me. Is my keyboard possessed? No, it like lights up and it changes colors and everything. I didn't even know it did that when I got this computer. For those of you who are computer savvy, this is called a Lenovo Legion. And the specs are 5000 series 7 AMD. My sister explained all this to me. I don't remember. So did the guy at Best Buy. I don't remember what he said, most of it either. AMD Radeon graphics. Anyway, sounds like fancy stuff, but that's what it is. Oh, cool. Gamer said he has a Lenovo too. Awesome, Gamer. Yeah, man. Aspen Fallen. I like the blinds. I'm glad you like them, Aspen Fallen. My mom does not. I'm still picking on, but my mom's still picking on me, telling me that I need to put curtains in this room. And I'm like, but why? I don't feel like it. I have curtains in the other rooms. Does that count? Does that count? I think it's a mom thing. Going into our last story, buddy. All right. Speaking of the duopoly. So something happened over at Fox News. Again, I said at the beginning of the show, this is the first time I've ever talked about Tucker Carlson on this channel. So this is a first for me. This is going to be interesting. So I don't know if you've heard this yet, but 2 Fox contributors actually quit. And it has to do with Tucker Carlson is releasing this, oh boy, this special about January 6th. And I have not seen the trailer. I don't really care to. I don't have time for this. But apparently 2 of those contributors were very, I guess, disturbed by what they saw. The name of it is called Patriot Purge. Listen to this. Here we go.
2 longtime Fox News contributors have quit in protest over Tucker Carlson trying to rewrite history in his so-called documentary on the January 6th insurrection. Steve Hayes and Jonah Goldberg write, quote, "The special is presented in the style of an expose, a hard-hitting piece of investigative journalism. In reality, it is a collection of incoherent conspiracy mongering, riddled with factual inaccuracy, half-truths, deceptive imagery, and damning omissions. The release of Patriot Purge," that's the name of the special, "wasn't an isolated incident. It was merely the most egregious example of a long-standing trend. With the release of Patriot Purge, we felt we could no longer do right as we see it and remain at Fox News." Joining me now, CNN chief media correspondent and anchor of reliable sources, Brian Stelter. These are big resignations.
Yes.
I know they're not major stars at Fox, but it's making a statement.
Yes, this very, very rarely happens anywhere in cable news to see 2 longtime commentators walk out because they just couldn't take it anymore. And one of the reasons why they're not bigger stars, John, is because they have been kind of constrained within the Fox News orbit. 10 years ago, Steve Hayes, Jonah Goldberg, they were on Fox all the time. They were very significant players in the conservative commentary world, but they have been squeezed out. They've been sidelined in the Trump years because they are not sufficiently Trump loyal. They are sharp critics of the narcissistic direction the GOP's taken and the control that Trump has over the party. So as a result, they decided they couldn't take it anymore, Tucker being the last straw. And this says a lot both about Tucker Carlson and his power at Fox and about the fact that there are people inside the GOP media who just can't stand it.
I just want to chime in here for a minute and say, I think if these guys would have been Trump supporters, I think this would be more powerful. But the fact that he said that they were not Trump supporters, I guess they did not like that, the whole Trump-like rhetoric or whatever, and they left. It's just kind of like, it doesn't seem like they did like a huge big thing here. But still, it's something. I'll let him go on.
Read a quote that Jonah gave Ben Smith of the New York Times. And I guess Ben broke this story overnight. Let me read you a quote from Jonah, suggesting that he and Steve Hayes thought that maybe Fox would be changing after the election. Listen to this. They say they stayed at Fox News as long as they did because of a sense from conversations at Fox that after Mr. Trump's defeat, the network would try to recover some of its independence and, as he put it, right the ship.
I heard this from sources at Fox as well, right after Trump lost, that, okay, maybe the fever is now broken. This is a version of the conversation you're having about the Republican Party and politicians in Washington. You know, will they break with the loser who failed to gain a second term? Well, the answer has been no. The answer has been Fox has continued to slavishly promote Trump and also, even more importantly, double down on incendiary radicalized rhetoric. There's a reason why Tucker Carlson is the highest rated host. There's a reason why he is putting out this 1/6 denialism, putting out this Patriot Purge documentary, which really isn't a documentary at all, where he comes out and suggests a new war on terror trying to hurt half the country. That radicalized poison is now what Fox stands for. And I think essentially what Goldberg and Hayes are saying is we were hoping that this place might come back to normal, go back to a more moderate place. It's not happening. Every sign is that Fox is choosing its lane. And its lane is more radical. Its lane is over on Marjorie Taylor Greene and Louis Gohmert's side and Lauren Boebert's side, and not on this more moderate, back to politics sort of lane. Do you know what I'm saying?
I just think it's kind of funny because he says moderate as if that's so much better. Like he's like, well, they're radical now, instead of being like this moderate political lane. And they still believe, a lot of these hosts, CNN, MSNBC, like they still believe that moderate is the way to go. No, the country tried to show you this multiple times. People want the things that are more progressive. The majority of Americans want Medicare for all. Maybe not exactly that bill per se, but the majority of Americans want everyone to have health care in this country. And they continue to try to tell people that the way that you should go is the moderate way. Well, we've been doing it that way for decades, and it's not working, and people are still constantly left behind. This is why you have like such this great divide in this country, where you have people at the top 1%, and then you have a lot of people who are below the poverty line. So being moderate really isn't doing anything for people who are struggling financially in this country just to get by. Go ask those people how being moderate is working out for them. It's not. And people continue to fight for these policies that we want. We want these programs, maybe not just programs, but we need to have things in this country like free college, whether it's for public education or for community college. We need to have that. We need to have healthcare for everybody in this country. And he's over here saying like, they're starting to be more radical. They're not, instead of going back to, we thought they would go back to this moderate lane after Trump left. No, you big dummy. Because number one, Trump gave them ratings. And number two, one thing that Trump showed them is that a lot of people in this country are sick and tired of the way that the moderate lane has been going. They're sick and tired of not getting anything. They're sick and tired of the class divide in this country. They're just fed up. Why do you think someone like Trump was able to get so much support? Give me a break. Trump won on a populist message. And people like Brian don't want to admit that. They don't want to tell you that him going on stage and telling people, well, yeah, Joe Biden's a sleepy Joe, and yes, everybody should have health care, and saying these populist things while he was running for president, they don't want to tell you that that actually worked. They don't want to tell you that it's not because of Russia. I wish they would just stop it with the Russia. They don't want to tell you that it's not because of Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is not the reason that Hillary Clinton lost. I said this before, I say it again. She was a horrible candidate. A lot of people I know do not like that woman. She is not appealing. She is not compassionate. She comes across as this elite, prudish person, and it is a turnoff, especially to people who are from working class communities that have had to work their ass off just to get by and are still struggling in this country. And they have to have someone like Hillary Clinton come to their town and look down on them and say that she's gonna take their jobs. What a disgrace. What a disgrace. But Brian doesn't get that, because Brian gets up every morning and he goes to CNN. He puts on an expensive suit. He drinks coffee that's probably good coffee. Let's keep it real. A lot of us that get free coffee at work, it's not good coffee. He doesn't understand. You can say the same thing for the women that come on these shows. They come into a studio, someone does their hair and makeup every day. Some of them have drivers. They have people that drive them to the studio. They don't get it. You never see these people wear the same thing on camera more than once. Try talking to them about poverty. Are you kidding me? I'll let him go on.
Explain to me Rupert Murdoch and what he said that he felt Fox should be doing and why it's not doing that.
Right. Just a few days ago, Murdoch comes out and says, President Trump, the past is the past. In order to have a constructive debate about the future and have conservatives leading the way, we need to let the past go and focus on the future. And yet, over the weekend, Trump calling it a Laura Ingraham show, saying the election was rigged. And he's on Sean Hannity's show tonight, and he'll probably say the same thing. The idea that anyone can expect Donald Trump to move on and let the past go is laughable. But I think Murdoch, in his gentle way, is jabbing the former president again. But Murdoch's jabs often seem unconnected, disconnected from what's actually airing on Fox News. If Rupert Murdoch really cared about this, he would have made sure Stephen Hayes and Jonah Goldberg stayed on the payroll and didn't resign last night.
Maybe Rupert Murdoch knows somebody within Fox who can help get his views heard. In there. Finally, Brian,
that's the problem.
I mean,
That's the problem.
Steve
right
Hayes
there.
and Jonah Goldberg, is this the beginning of something or is this the end of something?
There are others inside Fox who have the same concerns, who share the same fears about Tucker Carlson, who recognize the danger that exists from this radicalized Fox News. But it's very rare to see anybody resign.
I want to give a quick shout out to Susan Mullen on Rockfin. Thanks so much for the tip. Susan said, thank you. Most people don't understand what policing looks like in some Black and brown communities. Well said. Thanks so much, Susan. Brian is still continuing to go on and say this radicalized Fox News. And they said that so much when Bernie Sanders was running, it drove me crazy. It's so radical, these radical issues, these radical policies, and then when you have people like Elizabeth Warren starting to say these same things too, they're like, well, yeah, she agrees with the stuff that Bernie says, but she ensures us that she is a capitalist. Like, that is a good thing. That is not a good thing. Do you see how their minds work? This is what they do. They want to brainwash people and convince them that having ideas and thoughts outside of the moderate lane is considered radical. These are the same people who probably back during the 60s would have said that the civil rights movement was radical. Let's be real. It's just hilarious to me. It's hilarious to me. Well, we got to stay, we can't go too far this way. We can't go too far that way. And so what happens is you have this wheel that just gets stuck in a right position for both parties. They're all on the right. Dems will say a couple of things to make you think they're further left. They're not. Choosy said the majority of Americans don't understand that the whole political circle is completely corrupted, and they have no idea what the solution looks like. A lot of corruption. So those two contributors did decide to leave Fox News. And like I said, he made it seem like it was a bigger deal than it was. And I say that because I would have thought it was more of a bigger deal if they would have been like Trump supporters, but they weren't Trump supporters to begin with. So that explains why they didn't align with what Fox News was doing now. It was doing now. And Fox News was not going to go away from the Trump rhetoric because that's what gets them ratings. That did really well for them, especially like when Trump was still in office. So they're not going to go away from that. That's where the party is now. What can I say? He's like, but this is a big deal that these two contributors have decided to leave Fox News. And I'm like, meh. It'll be a big deal if someone like Tucker Carlson decides to leave Fox News. Call me then, Brian. Call me then. Just keeping it real. Guys, I have a couple of updates for you before I forget. So I told you guys a while back, I did wanted to start a women's panel for women of color. That is a go. It looks like the first panel will be in December. So I'm excited for you guys to meet all of them. Some of them you may know already. Some of them you may not, but we're going to have that discussion on here. So once a month, we're going to have a panel. I hope you guys like this. The goal again is to introduce you to more people who are out there also doing leftist commentary that may not get the attention that I feel they deserve to get. I think they need more attention. And we're going to talk about all types of things. So you'll get to hear like different perspectives, which I think is needed in this space. So I'm excited about that. I'm like, whoop, 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 whoop. Thanksgiving is coming up this week. I hope you guys are excited for that as well. FHL, we are changing our name. In fact, what time is it? I got to get going soon. Hopefully we'll be able to give you that name tomorrow. So our channel will have a new name. I'm excited about that. If you don't know the story, go over to Fred Hampton Leftist and watch the episode called Changing the Name. And we kind of explain it all on there. Doesn't matter. We're still the same people. We still have the same beliefs and values, and we'll continue on with that. But yes, Aaron wants to know what is the secret. Aaron, I can't tell you till the end of November. You'll find out very soon. You guys will find out. I do have a special surprise coming up. It hasn't been a surprise for me for a while, but I have been hiding it from everybody else because I was waiting for some things to be finalized. But yeah, I will have big news for you at the end of November. I'm really excited about that. And I do have someone to thank for that as well. And I'll be able to tell you that too at the end of November. Those of you, if you're new here, and I probably never told you this, I'm also on Spotify and iHeartRadio. So you can also listen to me on there as well. You'll only hear interviews on those because my live streams where I do the news, it would sound a little weird if it's only audio because I'm showing you my screen and stuff like that. And you can't see that. Like if you're just listening to the audio, I just didn't think that would sound well. But all the interviews that I do, those are on Spotify and iHeartRadio. So definitely check that out. If you want to support what I do, you can do so at patreon.com/Sabrina Salvati. That's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Or you can visit my merch store, which is in the details tab of this video. Guys, check out my Discord. There's some people in there. I'm getting better at coming into Discord. I didn't know how to use it in the beginning, so I was not good at it. I'm just being honest. But I am getting better about coming onto Discord. So if you want to chat with people who follow this channel, definitely jump on the Discord group. I'll be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So you'll see me again there. But other than that, what was that where, Pilgrim? The secret is she's getting curtains. No, never. I will never get curtains in this room. I'm kidding. Who knows? Maybe one day. Yeah, definitely check out my Discord. There it is at the bottom of the screen. Also in the chat, pop on over there. Eric is usually there as well as other people. I'm not in there as much as I should be, which is not good, but I'll get better at that. But yeah, we're starting new things over at the artist formerly known as FHLs. So we'll have a new name soon, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm gonna feel like a sense of freedom, I think, because carrying someone else's name, sometimes you just are limited in a way, so to speak. Sabby Sabs and the Mystery Machine. That would be funny. That'd be funny. Aspen Fallen. Oh man. Yeah. So thank you so much. You have the coolest logo, Sabby. I was looking at the merch page. Thank you. My sister made that. Yeah, my sister does graphic design. Thank you so much. Yeah. So you'll be seeing more from me and hearing more from me. So yeah, I can't wait to give you guys the good news. So other than that, I got to get going, guys. You know how we do this. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.